Beast. Okay, hey cats, Ed Endorphin Bud here. Back today with an initial review of the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro 2. Thanks very much for joining me, cats and kittens. It's always appreciated. If you're a fan of running related strangeness and you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when I roll out those new videos for you. It's free of charge, my friends, to join this budding army of shoe enthusiasts. You know what to do. The SAUCONY Endorphin Pro version 1 was a real favourite of mine from 2020. 80s looks, and one of the most versatile of all super shoes released. How does this new iteration of the Endorphin Pro hold up? Weight-wise, it's almost exactly the same as the V1. I have a UK size 11 here, which is a US 12. Comes in at 251 grams, which is 8.9 ounces. So just a very slight discrepancy, but about a 10 gram discrepancy between the left and right shoe, which is a bit strange. Not sure where the extra weight comes from. Maybe some extra upper here or there, I'm not sure, but it's a bit weird. This is a shoe I picked up with my own cash. It's not been sent to me for review or anything like that, so you get my honest opinions as per usual. Okay, we'll start with the upper first. So big changes here in the upper. In fact, I think the midsole and outsole are practically the same. But one of the big issues that I had with the original version of the shoe was that inconsistent lockdown across the top of the foot. SAUCONY have heard my plea, and they've made some changes here to the upper that improves it. You've got these lace loops now on the lateral and medial sides of the upper. They improve the upper fit. They kind of grip around the top of the foot now and removed completely that lacing issue that I had in the original version. I literally put the shoe on, cinched it up, tied the laces, put them under the convenient little flap here, and I was ready to go, and I didn't think about it once across the whole run. I've also found that you don't need anywhere near as much tension or pressure over the top of the foot now, so you don't have to cinch the laces quite so tight. Just a very small addition here has made a big improvement. That tongue is still semi-stitched into the shoe, so it's partially gusseted. It's very flexible. You've still got a little bit of suede here, but it's not actually stitched into the top of the tongue. Very strange. Almost like a deconstructed type version of the original. Reminds me a little bit of some of those Virgil Nike Off-Whites that you can pick up where they've got overdone stitching and pieces taken away and stuff. It does feel a little bit like that. Yeah, that suede pull tab here is barely stitched in. You do have this strange, almost sort of mock leather piece on the heel as well. I don't exactly know why it's there. Some sort of pull tab, I don't know. You could probably dispense with it, and I don't think it's really needed. There is a slightly more rounded shape to the heel now. If you're wondering what these strange things are, they're included with the shoes when you get them to keep the shape of the heel there. But it certainly feels less pronounced, that flare in the back. In fact, here's the original. You can see that the heel flare isn't quite so pronounced. There's no heel counter in the Endorphin Pro, guys, so if that's something that you really need in a shoe, you won't find it here. It's as squashy as a tree bore soft mint. The spearmint version as well, they're my favourite. You try eating 3 of those and drinking a can of Coke at the same time. That's the sort of fun we have here. On foot, it feels similar, but different. I had zero issues messing around with the lacing today, and that was a big problem in the first version of the shoe. I always felt that I needed to keep adjusting it over the first couple of miles to get it just right. None of that now. Breathable, fitting. No pressure or hot spots. There's nothing on here that isn't needed, aside from that strange little piece here. Even the logos are actually very thin and very flexible. Doesn't really feel like they're hindering the movement. Imagine a carbon fibre plate shoe that doesn't need a ridiculous amount of pressure to get the lockdown right. Locked in fit here, superb, love the upper. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 3 after my initial run. They've solved all the problems that were in the first version. Moving on to the midsole now. So, exactly the same as the V1? Or is it? I mean, it could be the miles that I've put into the V1, but I feel that the V2's just a little bit less rigid. I'd assume that the rigidity would disappear after you put miles into a shoe. It would slowly flex and become a little less rigid. The foam here actually feels a little bit less dense than the V1. Certainly a little more squashy on the non-painted sections of the PWRRUNPB Plus. Again, this could be the age of the foam. Not done an awful lot of miles. It's not been pounded into the pavement. But again, I would assume that the rigidity would decrease over the miles rather than it be less rigid right at the start. I've always found the foam in this shoe and also the Endorphin Speed to be amongst the most versatile of all the super shoes. It's forgiving yet still has some firmness to it. A real paradox actually, it falls right into the middle between being stable but still forgiving and providing some push and cushion. I could feel quite a bit of snap on toe off today. Certainly that speed roll technology does seem to work for the Eddbud Giraffe legs. It was present as ever in the V2 as it was in the first version of the shoe. So on my initial 7-mile saute today, 11.27 kilometers, if you like that sort of thing. I threw in a few target half marathon pace miles just to test out the speed chops of the shoe, and the Endorphin Pro 2 felt exactly the same as the V1. Perhaps a little bit more toe off feel, which could be down to that improved lockdown from the upper. Absolutely nothing to dislike here, guys. The shoe's very light, it feels forgiving, but you can also turn up the pace if you need to. You can feel yourself going up through the gears and the shoe always responds to that. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 3 for midsole today after my initial run. It's the same midsole, but you're getting a little more out of it because the upper's better. Outsole now. It's the same as the V1. Great grip and traction in dry conditions. We know it. A little of a letdown though that they haven't tinkered around with it to improve it in the wet. So I know I've had some bad experiences using the Endorphin Pro in wet conditions before. I was hoping for perhaps a little bit of an update here, but that's not what we've got. I gave the V1 a 2.5 for the outsole after 100 miles. I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity here. I'm going to give the same score for the outsole. I don't need to go into it. Perhaps go and check out my 100-mile review of the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro if you want a bit more information on that score. I mean, it's going to be durable enough, but perhaps a slight change in the outsole pattern could have improved the traction in wet conditions. So, yeah, bit of a missed opportunity. Value now. Value-wise, at 190 Earth credits, it's certainly going to be a shoe that not everyone's going to consider. I think if the first version of the shoe worked very well for you, you may be thinking about picking up the second version. The upper is improved, though there'll be lots of you out there where the V1 upper worked perfectly well and you had no issues with it. In which case, pick up some pairs of the discounted V1s. I think if you're buying the shoe with a half marathon or marathon race in mind, you'll want the best version of it you can get, and that certainly is this. The upper is improved. You won't want to be messing around on race day with the lacing, trying to get the tension just right. That's going to distract you from the task at hand. If you're buying it for racing, then the improved upper is going to give you a little bit more of a lockdown on top of the midsole. It's going to bolster that push off and makes the shoe a little bit more engaged with the ground. So they fixed one of the major issues I had here in the V1. Hopefully in the V3 they'll improve that outsole a little bit. It just needs a pattern change up. I think that's all it is. The actual material on the outsole is durable enough. I had no wear at all in my V1s after 100 miles. I think this is one of the most versatile of the super shoes out there. Yeah, 190 Earth credits, it's some big dough, but I think you can incorporate it into your running shoe rotation on a more frequent basis than a lot of the other super shoes. I think that's something that the brands are looking at doing. They're trying to make their shoes a little more accessible. They're trying to position the shoes a little more for everyday runners. This one feels absolutely fantastic across all paces to me, and is certainly one of my favourites of the year so far. Yes, it's very expensive, though still cheaper than the Next Percent 2 or the New Balance Fuel Cell RC Elite 2. I'm going to give it a 2.7 out of 3 for value. I think that it can do lots of different jobs for you. It's a very versatile tool rather than just one for racing. So if I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us an 11.2 out of 12 after my initial runs for the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro 2. Have you picked this one up, guys? Did you enjoy the V1? How do you find the V2 in comparison? Let me know in the comments below. A musical interlude for you. Something stirring today. Something very British. Today we have a CD from the band of the Royal Air Force College Cranwell. I picked this one up, many years ago now. I remember flying along a motorway with a good buddy of mine, George, listening to this one. Do you remember that, George? There's some proper stirring stuff on here, guys, and it sounds fantastic. The Dam Busters March and the 633 Squadron are my favourites on this disc. I think it was re-released back in 2005, if you can track it down. Maybe it exists out there on some of the streaming platforms. Probably some good stuff to put on before the upcoming England match, playing Italy in the Euros final. I think my voice has finally recovered after the exploits in the semi-final, which was a very close game. Commiserations to any viewers from Denmark. Thought we played a fantastic game, very, very close. I think England just about edged it, really. But yeah, Italy will be a different proposition altogether. Let's hope that Italy play in a similar fashion to the way they did earlier in the tournament. I think there they were a little bit more attacking minded, and they certainly tried to play a little bit more on the break against Spain. I think they should have gone at Spain. I think they would have beaten them a little bit more easily, perhaps, without the requirement of extra time and penalties. Let's hope we don't have those, and it's just a 90-minute game on Sunday with England victorious, obviously. I have a feeling, though, that the Italians will just have a little bit too much salve, and Mancini is a quality manager. He will have them laid out and set up in a way to try and stifle us as much as they can. Is it possible to stifle England right now, though? We will see. Get this one on your stereo, guys, the 633 Squadron, band of the Royal Air Force College, Cranwell. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm off to watch a few episodes of The Good Life. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when those new videos are launched. And it really does help the channel out if you give this video a thumbs up, like, and share it with your running buddies. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you. Morning, guys. So testing out the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro 2 today. Be 7 miles. Going to chuck 3 miles in at my goal half marathon pace. See how they feel. I've done one of those already, and I think we're about 2.5 miles in. So I'll hit another one around about 3 miles. So far, mightily impressed with the upper on these. They've made some good improvements. I haven't had any issues with the tightness of the shoe over the top of the foot. So I think they've managed to dial it in a lot better with just a very small update. What I love about this shoe is it's so versatile. You can flick between the gears, change speeds, and it still feels great. So just the addition of those fabric pieces either side of the foot has drastically improved the lockdown, for me at least. A bit of a game changer. Oh, managed to hit the second faster mile bang on, so that's good. Nice to get the mileage back up again this week. I tapered back a little last week in mind of the race on Sunday. Very lucky, the company saw, they've sent me some stuff. Today wearing the Race Vest 4.0. I've got to be honest, it's incredibly light. There's barely anything to it. As first runs go, guys, these feel beautiful, I've got to say. If this is how the original versions felt on my first run, you know, they don't feel more compressive, I suppose. They're just so forgiving. Any pace. Certainly one of the most versatile of all the super shoes. Yeah, it has to be said. Thanks to all the recent new subscribers and just all the regular viewers. I do appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the content. Hope you're staying safe. Can't believe how much the channel's grown in the last year. It's insane, really, but it's all down to you guys. Thank you.